When you're playing guitar, I think it's really impressive to see some people just completely shred and play thousands of notes at 120 beats per minute. But there's also something to be said about slowing things down and just putting a little more feel into it, a little more emotion into it. It's not all about playing as fast as you can and figuring out how many notes you could fit into a solo. Sometimes less is a lot more. And to that end, you could take something really simple and fun like the minor pentatonic scale that has tons of notes in it and completely transform that into a solo with very minimal use of all the notes within that scale. So what I want to do here is I want to take a slow, very basic 12-bar blues in the key of A minor and just kind of riff over that and show you what you could do with that one scale that everybody knows and everybody loves and everybody uses. Is our first scale that we learned, the A minor pentatonic scale, or let's just pare that down to just saying the minor pentatonic scale. We're going to be using this 12-bar blues as kind of our roadmap into reintroducing ourselves into that minor pentatonic scale and figuring out different ways to play it. Like I said, we're not all Stevie Ray Vaughan, and even Stevie Ray Vaughan himself slowed things down. To that effect, the emotion that he put into it, you could hear it. So this is what we're going to try to accomplish today. My name is Keith. Welcome back to the channel. Alright, so like I said, we're going to take a very basic 12-bar blues in the key of A minor. So let's go over the chords that I had on that backing track, and I'll go over the backing track here and exactly how I got it in a second. But let's learn the chords first. So let's hop down to the fretboard and get started. The first chord we're going to play, again, this is in the key of A minor, so we're going to do an A minor on the 5th fret. So the A minor is right here. How do we get that? Basically, we have our A bar chord in the E shape on the 5th fret. You lift up your middle finger, and that flattens the 3rd, and that turns into an A minor. Compare that down here to this A minor. Sounds the same. Now, that's for the first 4 bars of this 12-bar blues. Now, bars 5 and 6 goes to the 4, and that 4 is, we're going to do a D7 this time. How do we get that? We know a D is right here on the 5th fret in the A shape, and you turn that into a minor like that, flatten the 3rd, and then from there, you just lift up your pinky and you got that D minor 7. Same thing down here in the open position. That's for bars 5 and 6. 7 and 8 is the A minor again. And then 9 would be our E minor 7th. Same exact idea we had for the D minor 7th, but we're just moving it up to the 7th fret instead. And then back to the, what is this, the 10th of the 10th bars, the D minor 7th. 11 is back to the A minor. And then we have a turnaround. Alright, so let's go through the 12 bars just one time. Now the D7th. Now back to the A minor. E minor 7th. D minor. A minor. Alright, so that is the 12 bars, and those are the chords we're going to be playing. Now, what I did in this particular instance was I threw on my roto vibe to get that cool little sound that we got going on here. Let me go ahead and toss that on. Alright, we got a cool sound like that on the roto vibe. I moved this to the middle pickup to kind of distinguish this from the solo, so it'll sound something like this. Actually, this is a good point that I wanted to show you. Instead of playing the A minor like this, it's kind of hard to bar all the chords or all the strings this way and to get a complete sound out of it. The easiest way to mitigate that is to do this chokehold Jimmy style. That is going to allow me to play all the notes easier, except we're skipping this A string, but we don't really need that A string, because if I kind of arpeggiate everything, I'm just skipping right over that A string. Alright, so that's the basics of what I did there. I went ahead and used my looper pedal to make that loop, and you hear it right here. Now, I would highly recommend getting a looper pedal, because you could do things like that. But if you don't have a looper pedal, don't be in despair. You could just go on YouTube and look up slow blues in A minor, and there'll be tons of tracks out there for you to practice and riff on. So just pick one that's slow enough for you. In this case, we're doing something really slow because I want to concentrate on those pentatonic scales. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and throw the pentatonic scales up here. Starting with the first pentatonic scale, the A minor pentatonic scale. Everybody knows this one. Alright, that's the first scale we are going to use, and we're not even going to use all those notes. So next up we have the D minor pentatonic scale, and I know we're playing a D minor 7th, but we're going to be using the D minor pentatonic scale over that chord in particular. The D minor pentatonic scale, and the charts right up here, is as so. Alright, now we're going to keep that same chart up there because if we scooch up just 2 frets, we have that E minor pentatonic scale. Same exact kind of finger positions, but you're just moved up 2 frets because this is an E and this is a D. E, D. So what exactly am I doing over that chord progression here? So again, the key that I wanted to emphasize here is to take this very, very simple basic pentatonic scale that we all know and we all are super familiar with, and putting some music to it and soloing over it that is a little more tasteful than just running up and down the scale. Because like I said at the beginning, and I kind of stressed out, sometimes a little goes a long way. So in this particular instance, I am starting, let's hop down to the fretboard, I am starting with all the notes that I'm going to be playing in this solo or in that pentatonic scale. So for that A minor, I'm just using these notes here. So that's pulling up on that G on the 7th fret. And then while I have the 5th fret barred on the B and E strings, that gives me that cool little intro. And then I could do a few things from here. I can go like that, but what I wanted to emphasize was this kind of Albert King kind of deal here, and this is going to move up a little bit within that pentatonic scale, and this is where the diagonal pentatonic scale comes into play too. Again, I don't want to inundate you with too many scale patterns, but you know that original scale pattern, the one that I'm showing right here, and then if you want to move up the fretboard, you're going to go into position 2 or 3, whatever they call it. I don't like using the term positions because that gets really confusing, because you have that, then you have caged, which has an A shape, you know, C, A, G, E, D shapes, and what position corresponds to what. I don't like to think of that way. It just confuses people. So that's in our note, and that's in the pentatonic scale, and then I'm going to slide up with that diagonal pentatonic scale. The chart's up there. So it's right off the bat, giving it feeling with that little vibrato and that initial bend. Sounds like somebody's crying, kind of. That's that Albert King lick. Then you bend up on that fret, on the 8th fret of the E string. Alright, and then you bring it back down on the 9th fret, the 10th fret, so we got 7, 8, 9, 10. So I think I have a short, I'll go ahead and link it up, of that exact lick, but that's the Albert King lick. And you could either slide up here, or you can, if you have the strength, you could just bend that B string up, but it's easier just to move up that whole step on the fretboard. All right, so we have so much feeling in so little amount of notes, such an extended period of time. It's hard to express it, but let's put on the looper. Now, when we move on to the 4 chord, let's think of this scale. Alright, so that is what we're playing over that D minor 7th. So what did I do instead of just running through? I'm doing something a little more muted, a little more, yeah, I don't know, it's more sparse, I guess is the best way to put it. So it's, and this is not actually in that minor pentatonic scale, that note here, but it kind of gives it a little flavor and a little character. So from the beginning, everything in the pentatonic scales that we discussed here, except for this one note. So it's something like that. Then I'm kind of bending up when I'm back onto that one chord, the A minor. I'm taking this G and I'm just starting it off in that bend, and that kind of gives a little feeling of, I don't know what the best analogy is, somebody crying. And then very slowly lowering it down until eventually we get there, and then resolve on that A. See where we're going there. Not that many notes and a very, very slow blues, and we're letting the notes kind of sustain. Now, when we move up to the E minor, or the E minor 7, all right, we have that same scale here. Right? Because that's our E. So I like to live in this little box right there, and I'll go ahead and throw an illustration of this box up there, because the goal is to kind of isolate down the notes that we want to play in that pentatonic scale to just a few different strings, because the more of these dots that you see on these scales, they kind of make you want to think, hey, I have to play all those to sound good, or I have to play all those in my solo. You don't need to. You could just concentrate on a few of the strings, not all of them. You don't really need all the strings. So in this example, all that is within that scale. That's that E minor scale, and I could do the same thing for that D minor. And that's actually what I did when I did that turnaround. I did something like this. That's moving me from the E minor to the D minor. So it's... and then back to that A minor. So we're going to be making all the different changes and soloing over the different changes by switching up the pentatonic scale per the chords that's being played. So what I would recommend is taking something that simple, finding that blues backing track and experimenting with that. You hear the changes coming up, you're going to switch to the next kind of pentatonic scale pattern that corresponds with the chord that's coming up. And again, it is really important to understand the 12 bar blues and how that works. I'll go ahead and link a short that I did that explains exactly what the 12 bar blues is and how to count it out. So that'll be pretty helpful when you're exploring all this, so you don't get confused when you're looking up backing tracks for 12 bar blues. So if you thought any of this was helpful, I would encourage you to hit that like button, subscribe. Please leave a comment. I don't get that many comments on my videos, so I would appreciate any feedback or anything. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will talk to you later. Thanks. Pretty good.